There is so much that goes into a trust that you have set for your children. You must find an expert. We've got one here for you, everybody. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Your Little Castle Show. Carter Rethwish, aka the Cardinal Cowboy. A lot of you may be familiar with me running around doing my fun stuff in the community. But as a coma survivor, somebody who actually did get a little bit of money, we didn't last forever. We did invest that into our computer technology. Mostly, my mom reminded me, she said, "You didn't just blow that money." But many people end up with a good lump sum of money that they want to pass on to their children, and then they get a trust set up. The problem is, how does that get disseminated? How does that get managed? How is the property included in there get maintained? And I can only imagine that there's a house now that is worth, $1.2 million. And we have a house down in Fayette. We talked about it a little bit in the first show, where literally, I know my mom has to spend, a lot of money every year just to maintain that. But once the parents that have endowed this trust have moved on to the next level, and their kids now are responsible for it, especially if they have special needs. There's a lot to be considered here.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, tell me where you fit in there.
Where we fit is working with the trusts and the trust officers and the folks in the real estate or special assets departments. We act as a strategic partner to across the United States and all 50 states with our contractors to ensure that the home is going to be a durable asset. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, because one, it is probably one of the largest assets in the trust, and then the other piece of that is you want it to maintain or be maintained and hold that value throughout the duration of the trust.
Well, yeah, and I would say that's one of the most important things that anybody consider, because now you've got some valuable assets that they've worked their whole lives for, and you don't want this to be mishandled, I guess is one way to look at it.
Correct.
Because when you've got a house, and how often is a house involved in a trust? I'd say, what percentage?
Oh,
80?
Lord. It depends on how it's structured, the trust. But I would, what I see is 100%. However, I would, I do have, my brother is into the industry, so I would say probably a good 50%.
At least 50%.
That's what
I would say, but at least 50% of people have a house that they're trying to pass on to their children.
Right.
And then how does that thing get passed on? It's just, here's the asset.
Right.
Now what do you do with it? And a lot of people don't realize.
And the vehicle's the trust.
And the vehicle, and the vehicle to get them there is that trust.
Right.
And so, many times also you're talking about this home is located in another city somewhere far away across the United States,
Correct.
or even outside of the United States. Do you have to deal with that, correct?
Not usually.
Okay.
Yeah, not usually.
But there's still many, many miles, and so how do you have? It's like try running an Airbnb if you've never done this before. All of a sudden, it's thrown in your lap.
Right.
The equivalent of that, except that if it's not caught up to speed, you're losing your assets, depreciating in value,
Correct.
and you're helping people to keep it up to speed. So that involves a lot of the mistakes that people may encounter with all of that. Tell me a time, though, I can only imagine with as much as you've done here, where you really had to help somebody that was a specific situation. Don't name names, obviously, because this is all confidential stuff, but where somebody just didn't realize what they were getting into, they didn't realize what was at stake, and you had to step in and really help them.
It was my largest project to date.
Okay.
I got a call from a trust. They had normally they have to get 3 estimates for a large job. And it was a 12,000 square foot home, northern Illinois. And the beneficiary's in a wheelchair. And we received, so the trust officer called us and said, "Hey, I heard about you from a friend of a friend who's been to a conference that knows what you do." And so the thought is that, we looked at the estimates for them and just couldn't believe what we were seeing. It was from a painter contractor to do an $800,000 job, and on this it was a two-page estimate, and that they had install elevator. So there's a lot to installing an elevator in a 3-story
It's
house.
not a one-line item.
It's not a one-line item, and so we were able to gain the business. We have an architect on staff, and we're able to scope and define the requirement. I think that's the most important thing that we were able to do, is define that requirement for that child in such a very large house that we touched every inch of. 99 doors, 100 and some windows. I mean, you just name it. It was just a very large project. Still working on it. We finished the interior. Now we're working on the exterior. And so the thought is that we were able to define the requirement, scope the house, and it took us about 3 years. And we did have to go to court to explain to the judge why we were in the situation we were in, or the trust was in the situation, acting as their strategic partner to help them, one, complete the job, and then make sure that everything was complete for the beneficiary once they moved in. And it was probably a year ago that they moved in, somewhere around September, October. And so that child moved right into this home after being in a facility for years and years and years, and was able to just immediately start enjoying the house. Kind of like, it wasn't a new home, but it was one he could utilize. Again, a elevator in the middle of this house, top to bottom, and family around him, special, And when you can see that, you go, man, this was worth it. This was a lot of work, though, and putting that work into it up front to be able to get to that point, get across that finish line, that was key. And so, $2.2 million later, 3 interviews with the judge, or sessions with the judge, we were on time and on budget. And that's a big thing, because this painter, I don't think he realized what he was getting himself into.
Right.
You don't just go putting an elevator in a house. It takes drawings, it takes sketches, and all the above, and engineering, and just to get the permits. Just to get the permits. And so we were able to assist the trust with that, and I think it's 6, maybe 7 visits that we had to the house. From we're out of Fairview Heights in Illinois, but we had to go to Southside Chicago to do that. So it's very, very pleasing, and I think that passion that I have, like I said, I'm in the first session that I'm going to Atlanta tomorrow. We're getting ready to do the almost exact same thing. Wow. So and the money's there. We just have to make sure that that fiduciary responsibility of the trust is represented, and we're that partner to help them get across the finish line, and that child that we're working for, literally, is going to have a home that they can use for the rest of their life.
Yeah, that's why I said this is more than just the average. Here's a house. Here's some work that needs to be done. When you're dealing with a trust, there's a whole lot more in terms of the legalese and the implications and how things. You talked about how many times you had to manage the property. You had to go meet with the judge.
Correct.
To facilitate some of the changes or some of the things and explain why you're doing this. It's just a lot more complicated, it seems, when you're dealing with a trust.
Correct.
And you help to facilitate all of that.
We do.
Tell me that process then. Why is that? That's the critical piece I think that you bring here.
It is critical, and it's a process that I've put together that I didn't. It's a learned process, but at the same time, we've got the team of trust officers, we've got the lawyers with the trust, we've got our contractor that we're able to, and our designer and our, you name it, you name all the folks that we have involved in the process, and it takes a village, literally. And so, as opposed to making that wrong decision, getting involved with a house, letting the trust officer go down that road of, okay, this painter may do it, may not, may happen. We'll see how that goes for him. But at the same time, bringing that expertise to the table, bringing the planning, that mission that we talked about, and the skills to the table to get across the finish line. That's the difference. That's why I do this. That's why I continue to do this. I wake up every day and go, what else are you going to throw at me, world, right? I mean, that kind of thing. And it's those phone calls that we get that the help is needed, and and we're able to provide that for them, for the trust.
Yeah, it seems to me, I was surprised that this is kind of a new industry with regard to this kind of management, because we've had construction guys for a long time, we've had trusts for a long time, but nobody thought until recently, well, you're one of the innovators in this industry.
I think so.
To come out and say, hey, this thing's got to get facilitated. We need experts. Works well. I think your brother had been in this space a little bit with his law degree, right? That you helped him to achieve, right? A little bit.
Yep.
But it seems like all the stars kind of aligned for you to make this option for people to take care and to deal with this.
Correct.
Okay. Well, it seems to me is more than a simple process, and something that is complicated, and something that's very noteworthy that people should address, because you don't want to end up with a trust, and I've seen it happen, where people start squabbling and fighting over money. They start fighting over what's going to get done, and then how do you divvy up the property? How do you properly maintain the property? How do you separate from the property? How do you put it up for sale? And if it hasn't been maintained, now the value of it has been greatly depreciated, and now you've got a much less valuable asset. If somebody would have been incorporating your services from the onset, they could have had a much more valuable
I
trust.
agree. Yep, exactly. You said it just right. How's that?
Okay, well, I'm just trying to analyze it.
Yeah.
My dad had his PhD in academic finance, all but dissertation, by the way. But he helped me to understand, like, assets that are worthy, usually a home is a valuable asset. You've got to properly maintain these. I know my parents have put a lot of time, a lot of money into their homes, and especially the one down in Fayette, Missouri. And now it's designated as a historic site, but there's certain guidelines even within that they have to maintain to keep it up to par and keep it livable. We just spent a good chunk of change getting some electrical issues taken care of.
Right.
And gosh, that might have been better for me to be working with somebody like yourself, because we got some guy that came in and said, oh, for $10,000 we'll do this little thing and we're going to slap it on the outside. I went to talk to a buddy. He says, you don't even need all of that. There's a lot less work to be done. He did it for half the price.
And my dad did
it better.
I ran into a situation with my dad 3 years ago. He got hit by a drunk driver head on.
Oh, wow.
Lived. And out in Virginia. And so I had to go in, had my folks calling our contractors in the area, because I needed a deck built onto his house. He needed that. We needed a ramp. And so I used my own services, so to speak.
Right.
To help me do what I needed to do in a pinch. So that's my personal experience. But at the same time, aging in place piece, like we talked about, the boomers. What do you do if you're not in the same state? Who do you trust to help mom or dad maintain the home? I've come into situations where I'll fly to the homes. I do them, like we said, I'm going to Atlanta tomorrow. So bottom line is that when I'm able to go put eyes on, we're able to scope and define the requirement really quick and get the help if necessary. And a lot of times I reach out to my nurse friends that have a similar business model across the nation that are able to help me out with the nursing need if necessary.
Yeah, I guess you're covering everything, not just the facility in itself and how you maintain it, but also how you prepare it, how you have it for use for somebody who needs a wheelchair, who has special needs, who has access.
Pools are a big issue with us.
Pools.
Because if the client has no use of their torso, then we have to use a special sling to get them into the pool.
Right.
Which 9 times out of 10 is therapeutic. And so I want the experts. So I reach out to the nurses and go, okay, I don't know, I'm not the doctor here or the nurse, but we work hand in hand as strategic partners as well.
Well, lots to handle here, everybody, and much that you should be concerned with. If you have a trust, if you have somebody who has a trust, especially if there's special needs kids involved, this is going to be very important for you to be on top of. With that, we're going to jump into another community piece. The same guys. This is the founder of Will Be Inspired, and he does just a great job. So give it up here and listen to Will for a second. Talk about what he's doing in the community as a leader, making a difference. Will Banks, everybody. Will be inspired. Tell me about the event you got going on here.
Oh, we got a golf tournament today. Got some people coming out to support our military veterans and first responders. Everything that we raise today goes towards benefiting them, mental and physical health, overall wellness, wellness retreats, outdoor retreats, gym memberships. You think of it, you name it. That's what we do. So this is all to benefit them. I appreciate everybody coming out and taking action. Thank you.
We're at Old Hickory Golf Course. Been here for a number of events. Great crowd here.
Yeah.
How many people turn out for this thing so far?
Oh, there'll be at least 170 people here.
170 golfers, everybody. All right, if they need the Cardinal Cowboy to give out some free golf lessons, I might be doing that later. Don't wait for that. Don't wait for that.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Giddy up. We'll see you guys. Giddy up.
His name is Carter Rethwich, but in St. Louis, he's known as the Cardinal Cowboy. He's a well-known fixture in the stands at sporting events in the Gateway City. He's one of its greatest cheerleaders, a super fan like no other. When he makes his rounds at almost every home game, he shares his love for sports with the rest of fandom with a smile, a cheer, some positive encouragement, and lots and lots of selfies and pics. But the Cardinal Cowboy was born of a tragic incident. Rethwich was an aspiring athlete in high school and college. He dreamed of playing in the big leagues, but those dreams ended when he and 3 of his college friends were hit with a devastating crash by a 5-time drunk driver. One of his best friends died. Carter suffered a critical head injury. The trauma put him in a coma for 6 days. The doctors said he was never expected to function again. Those expectations never came true. He fought back and finished college. He was determined to prove the doctors wrong. Among other inspirations, it was his love of baseball that kept him going. And from his near-death experience, the Cardinal Cowboy emerged. His goal in life became to inspire others with positivity despite the odds, to help people believe in themselves and achieve their dreams.
So after my coma, I realized that it was up to me if I was going to accomplish my goals, if I was going to reach my dreams. Despite what the naysayers would say, the people that were discouraging me, like they do everyone, it's up to me if I'm going to make it. Don't listen to the naysayers. It's up to you. You decide whether you're going to succeed, whether you're going to reach your goals. Dream, and then always, always chase your dreams. Never give up. Giddy up. Hey everybody, Cardinal Cowboy here. I want to invite all of you to be part of my new team. No, you don't have to put on a baseball uniform and be a super fan. Now, it would be a good idea to cheer for the Cardinals, the greatest team in the history of the National League. But I'm talking about the Gold Cowboy team. You know, I love to help people follow their dreams and reach their goals in business and in life. So that's one of the reasons why I'm telling you about my friends at My Metal Pro. They help people like you and I acquire gold and silver with a membership that lets you safely buy, sell, and store gold and silver. They make it real easy to get started. My Metal Pro isn't like the big guys you see on network TV or the big coin shops that take a huge commission. So become part of my Gold Cowboy team. Scan the QR code or go to goldcowboy.com and check it out. Giddy up! Well, there you go. You can imagine there's so much that goes on in our community, and we just like to highlight some of the leaders, and Will doing a great job there. Hopefully you enjoy. If you know anybody who deserves to have the spotlight put on them, I've got a friend reached out to me recently. I said, yes, we'll do a special piece just on that person who deserves to be highlighted a little bit. We're looking for those kinds of leaders in our community. But with that, we talk about how media has changed the world and technology. But if you want to magnetize your media, if you want to, I'm going to put that on, there we go, camera number 1. Magnetize your media. This book, I wrote the foreword. It's a #1 seller on Amazon. There it is. And it will help you and it gives you the guidelines pretty well outlined here. You know, I didn't put my mug in there. But you can see this is not just a bunch of text. They bullet point this for you and makes it easy for you to take advantage of this modern day where media has changed the world. How has media affected your business and what you're doing here? In technology, we're talking about some of the stuff you've got, smart homes. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this.
Yep, and a lot of that, as we talked about before, from the military, we were doing this before, we had the digital cameras before everybody else did.
Right.
And we had email before and all that good stuff and fixing airplanes across the ocean. But the thoughts is that I've embraced it. I mean, I've had to embrace, and more of it is communication. Communication is key to what I do anyway, making sure that, when we scope and, put an estimate together and actually put a project into motion, the trust wants to know, and our clients want to know where they are in the project. And so there is a lot of communication. And with that being said, what I'm finding, and I think from a business owner perspective, is there's so much out there now that it's hard to know what actually to go for. And so that takes us into an IT world. But for me, it's just the simplification of communication. That's the key for me. And documenting, I do live in a litigious world. A lot of the folks that got their money were from cases that where they won money. So, and I say won, I don't mean that. I mean we're afforded money.
Yeah, well,
because
litigation or something.
Correct, litigation. So, from an actual, it could have been, anything from a pharmaceutical malpractice or something from medical hospitals. I hate to see that. Nobody wants to see that. But at the same time, this is the world we live in. This is what we've dealt with. So I think the communication and just the ability to put eyeballs on to homes as well, because we use a lot of Zoom
Right.
with our contractors. Like, show me. I need to see what you're talking about. So that's helped us a lot.
Yeah, so technology. You talked a little bit about, and with regard to the treatment that people can get through technology, how they work in their home now.
Right.
You talked about traumatic brain injuries. I suffered from a traumatic, they call it a TBI, a traumatic brain injury, and different levels they have now. That since I was a kid, they didn't talk about that when I went. I was 19, so obviously it's more than 5 or 6 years ago,
Right.
or more. But on the 7th day, I pulled a ventilator out of my own throat, and came out of a coma. And so, but these are the kinds of kids you're working with, and to give them the facilities, to give them the resources, because if I didn't have those resources, and I was physically mostly okay, but I had a mental, what they call it, a neuropsychologist. You're on the other end, of making sure that their home has the resources so they can get around, that they can do the things that they need to. When you talked about the pools in particular, wow, I mean, there's just so much that has to go into this. And if those aren't taken care of, does the average person who's now got a brother who's got to be taken care of because mom and dad just passed, do they understand how to do all this stuff?
No.
You can walk in and help them get that done correctly.
Correct. Yeah. Scope and define the requirement and make sure that it's complete, and that the person who is in need is able to live their life, the best life. Benefit of the beneficiary. So I think that's the key. Again, like we've talked, that's why I wake up every day. Continue on, making other folks' lives, that can't do for themselves sometimes, make it richer, in effect for their homes. So
Critical service that you provide, and it really does help a lot of people. Well, I can imagine there was a lot of people now that are going, I didn't know this service even exists. I didn't know that there are people out there that can help me with this. What's the process for somebody to get started with you?
got a phone number. I mean, usually, our phone. We do have a website where you can actually put a request in on my website.
Okay.
And there is a button. Go up a little bit. Yeah, we've got a button at the top.
The drop down at the top?
Yeah, I think there's somewhere there it is.
I'll put this up for everybody there.
Yeah, thank you. And so you can request from us, and it's a pretty simple process. Once we start, we make that phone call and touch base with whoever's reaching out to us, we're able to.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Actually, I've tried to make it simple. Simple enough to where I can do it. How's that?
Yes.
That's tough to do sometimes in this technical world.
Easy enough for a 42-year-old man to do.
Primarily, yeah, right. But so the thought is that if you need help with your home, ADA, aging in place, things of that nature, we can help with that.
Okay. Well, a lot that you cover there, and a lot that people need to have those resources. But check that out. You can see the website I'll put up here on our There it is. Oops, did it pop off? The colventgroup.com. But that 800 number, that number can actually be text messaged also, is that right? Mm-hmm. And so people can send you a text from there too, and a number of ways for them to get involved, to get started with you.
Yeah.
Cool. Tell me then, what is the biggest questions people have with regard to this when they want to get started? There's a lot of people who might be concerned and want to make sure that this is going to be handled correctly. What are the first biggest concerns people have? When
How much does it cost?
How much does it cost?
Not my services. How much does it cost to do, if we're talking, new flooring, we're in a new world now where prices weren't what they were 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So what we thought used to cost what it did, now it's costing almost double. Wow. And that's not for everything, but that's just a construction world. But when it comes to that project, like I was talking about, Northern Illinois, there was an estimate for $799. This was a $2.2 million job.
Wow.
So folks want to know what the cost is. What's it going to cost for me to widen my doors? What's it going to cost for me to put ramps? Things of that nature.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into this because you're not just giving somebody a standard, hey, here's a house for somebody. It's people with special needs, people who have special circumstances that they have to now function differently. And when you're widening doors, you're moving frames. A lot of times there's load-bearing walls that you have to move and facilitate. So a lot of that goes into it.
Yep.
Well, tell me then, ultimately, when it boils down to it, what gives you the most satisfaction about what you get to do?
I would say being able to go to the home and being able to do a site visit and actually interact with the family, because I've seen things at homes where we can help, and the client had an anxiety issue that they wouldn't even talk to their trust. And so by me going to the home, I was able to put together a plan to where we were able to, enact where, mom was literally holding and carrying her child up the stairs while her back was against the wall. And I don't want to say the word dragging, but she was pulling the child up the stairs. And so we were able to come in and go, wow, we can help with this, and we did. And so, it's not always known to the trust, those who have the money and the resources to help the beneficiary with what they need.
Lots of great resources he's got out there. Chuck has done a great job. Website, also a fan page here, or Facebook. You can get some information there, and that phone number right there at the top of the page, easy to find. But you're doing some blessed work here that helps people that really do need. And so often this is just completely not thought about, and something that will obviously impact a lot of people, because so many people, they just don't know what to go through to handle this, because they've gone through a traumatic situation. They're financially wondering what's going to happen, and they've got a facility and all these things, these resources that need to be realigned and accounted for. So get a hold of my buddy here, Chuck, and we'll make sure that this stuff gets taken care of for you. Thank you, Chuck, and we'll talk soon. Giddy up.
Thank you.